gonna lie. The second spent with you, it's like a day that starts brand new. Girl, I'm so amazed at all the things you do. Yes, I wanna build my whole world around you. So I promise you forever and for always. And girl, you are my sunshine, baby, don't you go away. I want me, all over me, already alive. I will love you forever. I want me, all over me, already alive. I will love you forever. I hear music in your words and in the way you call my name. When you're by my side, I can't do anything. You're my best friend, you're my lover. Without you, no one else would do. Through thick and thin, I know we'll make it true. Yes, I wanna build my whole world around you. So I promise you forever and always. Girl, you are my sunshine, baby. I want me, all about me, already alive. See, I will love you forever. I want me, all about me, already alive. I will love you forever. My baby, you are my sunshine. I love my essence. There's no one like you. My baby, you are my sunshine. My love and my essence. There's no one like you. You are me, all about me, already alive. See, I will love you forever. You are me, all about me, already alive. See, I will love you forever. My sugar, my honey, my lover, I will love you forever. My baby, my lover, and my best friend, I will love you forever. I place no woman above you. I will love you forever. I promise to always love you, baby. I will love you forever. And there's no one other comes close. I will love you forevermore. Forever and ever and evermore. I will love you forever. 'Cause you are my baby, my sunshine. I will love you forever. And when there's nothing more to say, I will love you forever. Forever. All right, good evening, everyone. We'll be starting right away discussing the anatomy of relationship and marriage. And today we are looking at part 6, but we are looking at Protocol 4. Part 6, but Protocol 4. Part 6, but Protocol 4. Now, the youth of this generation are faced with the great challenge of choosing life partner. Many have followed practices and not principles, and this has led to a situation where you have a high rate of divorce and even paternity fraud in marriages. So the goal of this program is to help everyone that will be part of it to get it right in these critical areas of their lives. You will also learn some things about marriage in this series that are very uncommon, but please note that these are based on research and are changing time, but to help you align on the current reality of our time to be able to take an informed decision. So listen with an open mind and also get back
go back to check some of the thoughts that have been shared in order to see if those things are so. So, as usual, I will read today again about example of a troubled relationship. I started doing this recently. This is a story, life story of individuals writing someone else to be able to get their details on or their feedback and counsel on an issue they are facing in their marriage and their relationship. It says, "Happy Sunday, good evening. I'm thinking of divorce at this point. Am I wrong? Should I apologize? My husband's sister has been staying in our house. She lives in the UK, but she is back in Nigeria now. And we met only via video call before this. Ever since she's been here, she's been very loud on the phone. She's been very loud on the phone. She leaves her undies all over the house. She competes with me for the TV and remote control. She competes with me for TV and remote control. She hides the remote when I'm in the living room. She can't find it. When she is there, when she's there, poof is there. I don't understand that message. She has also overtaken my house help. She gives them a lot of money and clothes. My maid now respect her more than me. She will be in the living room gisting with them and playing with them. I asked her to stop, and she called me host, class captain, an Android housewife. I didn't appreciate the joke, so I called her a bitch. And she just stood up and slapped me. I was in shock. I didn't hit her back. She's 3 years younger than me. She called my husband before me and started calling and called that I insulted her, and she felt bad. My husband came and said I should apologize. I told my husband she hit me, and he said I should apologize, that she will leave the house soon, because I don't think she wants to leave our house. Also, after the incident, my own maid are giving me hard time. What do I do? I'll read another story. Now, these are issues people face. Imagine now, one of the issues you can see in this story now, basically, is that the husband and wife never agree on how to deal with third party in the home. There was no discussion on that. Even when she was coming, how long is she going to stay? What will be the boundary? But these are issues that could have been settled even before the marriage happened in the first place. Look at this one. He has 3 children with 2 women, and he wants to marry me. Please share and keep me anonymous. My boyfriend at the moment has 3 children with 2 women. He's 39. We met last year, and he said he loves me and he wants to marry me. He already wants to meet my mom. My issue is that, what is the relationship with the other 2 women like? How will it be? He is very kind and honest. He will tell the truth no matter what. I'm having cold feet at this point. Should I consider marrying him? Because most time, men tend to have sex with their baby mamas. Now, that this lady is even considering this is my concern. If this guy already have 2 baby mamas, Are we sure she's not going to be the third one? That she even considering it, speak a lot about our understanding of what marriage is all about. Now, let me start for today. It is important to note that taking right decision in marriage is very critical. And as a matter of fact, taking a wrong decision might initially look good and be greeted with season of joy, even though it is a wrong decision. Even though it's a wrong decision. Taking a wrong decision might look good and might be greeted by a season of joy. The initial season of bliss does not make the move a right one in any way. This initial season of bliss is defective, is very deceptive rather. Just as a man put his hand in the wrong place, away from the point of equilibrium, by raising it up. When you raise up your hand, you don't feel pain initially, even though your hand is not in the right place. Your hand is raised up, but you don't feel pain when you start. The initial season of bliss does not validate that decision. And when pain begins, the people begin to use painkiller and pain reliever. So someone has taken a wrong decision in marriage, is greeted with a season of bliss. He doesn't feel pain immediately, but does not mean he has taken the right decision. Time will tell. Maybe second year, third year, fourth year. Time will tell. So if you raise your hand up and you're feeling pain, for example, taking a pain reliever will not solve that problem. Bringing that hand down to the point of equilibrium is what will solve the problem. But some of the steps that people take are basically not solving the root problem, but rather just removing the pain and leaving the deeper problem. So using a painkiller will give you some relief for the moment, but the root problem is the wrong move you make, and it has to be reversed. Else, the pain will persist. The pain you feel when you make a wrong move is only saying one thing to you. Only one thing to you that you must know today and become conscious of. One thing is to you. It's basically telling you you have taken a wrong decision. Pain is a sign that you have taken a wrong decision. It's a sign that something is going wrong. And it's actually it's a good messenger, actually. It's a good messenger, making you to understand that, look, I have not taken the right decision. That's a wrong decision. Pain is God's voice that is asking you to make adjustment. Pain is God's voice asking you to make adjustment. Irrespective of the pain you feel in any area of your life, it is only saying to you just one thing. And what is it saying? Make adjustment, make adjustment, make adjustment, make adjustment, make adjustment. So there is pain in marriage. It's a sign that you need to make adjustment. There is pain in the relationship. It's a sign that you need to make adjustment. Pain is telling you just one message: make necessary adjustment. Also know that the degree of pain in this instance is also a good representation of the degree of misalignment. And so you need to bring that hand down. Remember, the hand is up. It's not in equilibrium. It has to go down. Also, when you make the adjustment and bring back the hand to the position of equilibrium, the pain that started will not stop immediately. It doesn't stop immediately. It doesn't stop immediately. The pain will wear over time. So even when you have made wrong decision and you now correct the decision by doing what you're supposed to do, you won't be eliminating that pain immediately. But does not mean you have not taken the right decision. Only that the pain will persist a little more before you begin to have some respite, to have some relief, to have some respite, to have some relief. This is how life works. Even when you have taken the right decision, it can be preceded by a degree of pain at the beginning. But that does not make it a wrong decision. This is how life works. And please note that whatever you do to stop the pain, like going to see a doctor or your pastor or praying or getting counseling, will only work if they help you to return back to equilibrium. So for example, if you have a wrong mindset going into marriage and you're always having to argue and fight with your wife, if that wrong mindset, which is a place of disequilibrium, is not corrected, either for the man or the wife, any counseling you are going to, if they are not pointing your attention to that wrong decision. Let me give you an example now. Look at the story I read. There was a wrong decision in the marriage, bringing in the sister. And the wife will have complained to the husband. That was a wrong move. Number one, the husband should have known the kind of sister she has. So it was a wrong move. That was a state of disequilibrium. That was a state of disequilibrium. If that is not corrected, the pain will persist in that home. Now, the sister has slapped the wife. And the man is saying the wife should apologize to the sister. He's not looking at what the sister did. He said the sister will soon go, apologize to the sister, because the wife called the sister a name that the sister does not like. But the sister also did, sometimes human beings are very funny. You slap me and you're complaining about the way I cry. Don't slap me now. If you don't slap me, I won't have to cry. If I don't cry, you won't complain about the way I cry. So don't worry about the way I cry. Don't slap me if you don't want me to cry in a way you don't like. This lady come to the house, was doing things to spite the wife of the brother, and the lady could not take it again and call her names, then she slapped her. So ab initio, there was a disequilibrium in that home. A disequilibrium. What am I trying to say basically? Just the way we take wrong decision in life, like you sit down on a hard surface for a long time, you feel pain. If you don't stand up from there, that pain will persist. Even when you stand up, you will still feel some pain for a while. You still feel some pain for a while. So it is important to state that pain of today is a feedback of a likely greater pain to come in future. If the current pain is not fixed, the pain of today is a feedback of a likely greater pain that can come in future. If you don't fix the pain of today, that pain is giving a feedback of a greater pain that might be coming in future if you don't feel the pain of today. Please note that as you relate with a human or with other human beings, there is potential for crisis. This potential for crisis is a constant because the person that can supply perfect behavior have not been born. I will repeat that. A man or woman that can supply perfect behavior has not been born. Don't look for Mr. Perfect or Mrs. Perfect. A man or woman that can supply perfect behavior has not been born. The reason why there is prison in every country in the world is because every human being is not perfect. They have the right to be foolish. Every human being has the right to be foolish, but the law also has the right to punish them when they exhibit their foolishness. The law has the right to punish them when they exhibit their foolishness. If this is true, how then will you relate with disappointment? Because Your wife will disappoint you. Your husband will disappoint you. So expect that imperfect behavior and ensure you prepare ahead on how to handle it. You know, last week I was talking about personal manual, and I was talking about the need. I was talking about the need to have your personal manual written. And in that personal manual of your husband or wife, there will be weaknesses. And you don't need to deceive yourself about this matter, because he has weakness, you have weakness. So there will be weaknesses. And it's good you discuss the weaknesses. It's good you discuss the weaknesses. It's good you discuss the weaknesses. Because a man or a woman that will supply a perfect behavior has not been born and will never be born. Has not been born and will never be born. Since such an individual has not been born and will never be born, that's a lesson for you. That's a very, very important lesson for you. It is the wretchedness of human soul that make him to criticize the imperfect behavior of others. Why they tolerate their own behavior? They tolerate their own misbehavior, but they criticize the misbehavior of others. One of the ways to manage the imperfect behavior of your spouse is to note that peace is superior to justice. Peace is superior to justice. So you need to ask yourself, what do you want in this marriage? Do you want peace or you want justice? What do you really want in this relationship? Because it's going to do things you don't like. But what do you want? Do you want peace or you want justice? But always remember, peace is superior to justice. Always remember, peace is superior to justice. Peace is superior to justice. Peace is superior to justice. Do you want to have justice but lose your peace? You have a choice. You know, I always I said this in some session back. I'll repeat it again. My mentor told me, he said, it took him 7 years of marriage to realize that to have peace in your marriage, there are 3 rules. Rule number 1, do what your wife wants. Rule number 2, do what your wife wants. Rule number 3, don't forget rule number 1 and 2. As long as it is not destiny sensitive, do what your wife wants. As long as it is not destiny sensitive, do what your wife wants. As long as it is not destiny sensitive, do what your wife wants. Peace is superior to justice. But if you want justice, keep fighting for justice and keep losing your peace. Keep fighting. Keep fighting. When you are finished fighting for justice, we will now know how much peace you have left. We'll now try to check how much peace do you have left. One of the ways to manage the imperfect behavior of your spouse is to note that peace is superior to justice. Please note that every time you fight for your justice, you often trade your peace for it. You must learn how to engage usable compromise. Usable compromise. Usable compromise. An example of that is apologizing when you have not done something wrong in order to allow for peace to reign. There's an argument, and you say, okay, I'm sorry. So you allow peace to reign. So you allow peace to reign. So you allow peace to reign. Usable compromise. The compromise allow peace to reign. The compromise allow peace to reign. If it's something you must still talk about, find a more convenient time to talk about it, not at the heat of the moment. Not at the heat of the moment. Doesn't mean you should bottle up things you feel should be talked about, but not winning that argument at that time. There are other convenient times to talk about it. And you'll be able to get the message across. The challenge of many people is communication. You know, someone did a research and he saw that there are 5 major issues that destroy marriages, 5 major issues. Top on the list is communication. And we're going to discuss this in some of the episodes ahead of us. Number 1 on the list is communication. Number 2 is sex. Number 3 is money. Number 4 is third party. And number 5 is unrealistic expectation. Unrealistic expectation. Unrealistic expectation. So in communication, there's a way you can pass your message across without making the other party feel bad, but still saying what you need to say. But you communicate in a way that the person can receive it. And that might involve preceding that thing with the good quality of that individual. And then having talked about the good quality, and I say, but I think you should do this and this. I think this is not right. I think, so you need to learn to communicate. Learn to communicate. Learn to communicate. Learn to communicate. This is why a man always do what, this is why as a man, always do what your wife wants, as long as it's not destiny sensitive. Now, look at this. The more you say yes to her demands, the more you empower your no in the day that it becomes necessary to use it. I'll repeat that again. The more you say yes to your wife's request, the more you empower your no in the day that is necessary to use it. The more you say yes, but if I always say no, your yes will be useless. But if you are always saying yes, the day you say no, you will know that no. For you to say no, no. It must be serious. It must be serious. Always remember that having a good marriage is hard work. I'll repeat that. Having a good marriage is hard work. You cannot be a good wife and a good husband by default. You cannot be a good parent by default. I was talking to someone on Sunday. He's a parent. She's in her 50s. And she was complaining about her son. She was complaining about her son. How lazy her son is, how unruly he is. The son is a university student, and the way he behaved is so unruly. And the woman was blaming the children's church, the young junior church in his church for it. That the junior church, before they moved from the junior church to the teen church, that the junior church, they're not doing anything there. They're not doing anything there. They're not doing anything there. They're not teaching them. It's like someone exposing her failure. It's just exposing her failure as a mother, as a parent. That's all I can see. But I need to hear from her. And I try not to ruffle feather because I didn't have the time to explain if I was going to ruffle feather. But all I can see what she was saying is that, look, she had just, because this is a teenager already. You know why? We don't learn parenting. And I was telling someone this week, I said, my opinion about religious organization in Nigeria, that 4 major things that we must focus on, if we're going to balance a religious organization. 4. Number 1, holiness and righteousness, relationship with God. Number 2, relationship and marriage, parenting, relationship and marriage. Number 3, career and finance. Career, finance, personal finance, career growth, business, and the like. Number 4, calling, purpose of life. Calling and purpose. 4. So you know what I discovered? These 4 areas, some churches focus more on only one, holiness and righteousness. Some churches focus on one, only marriage and family life. Some churches focus only on one, career and prosperity. Some focus only on one. Some focus on 2, some focus on 3. So what you will see is that in churches that focus a lot on holiness and righteousness, they have issue with their children. And that was the case of this woman. They have issue with their children, their teenagers, because nobody trained them. They have issue in their marriage. If you remember last week, I talked about brethren as an example of people who don't love themselves. They really don't want to live together, but they don't want brethren to complain. They don't want people in church or their family or people around to complain. So they are just managing themselves because they were not taught about relationship, about marriage, about parenting. That area has been neglected. And you know, as human, you are a function of what you listen to. You know, you go to a religious organization, maybe on Monday, on Wednesday, sorry, on Sunday, on Wednesday, or on Tuesday and Friday, or on Tuesday and on Monday and Thursday, depending on the church you attend. The truth of the matter is this. The truth of the matter is this. That thing you are listening to is influencing your life, either you know it or not, either you believe it or not. It's influencing your life. It's affecting the way you do things, and you don't even know that it's affecting you. So you notice you are only concentrating on one area of your life. So some churches concentrate a lot on career and money. Their people can do people to make money because they don't talk about holiness and righteousness. Some people concentrate on calling, purpose, calling, purpose, calling, purpose. The people, they have purpose and calling, but they can't make money to be able to fill their purpose. They don't have good, some people are marriage and relationship, family, 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 family. But they have issue with their career. Either you like it or not, what you listen to is influencing your life. You are the one that will make up your mind to be balanced. If your church is concentrated only on 1 or 2 areas, the other areas, go and learn it yourself. You can't blame, like that woman that was blaming the church for his child not being well behaved. You can't blame people. How can you be blaming people for your responsibility? It doesn't make sense. A good marriage is hard work. You cannot be a good wife by default. You cannot be a good husband by default. You cannot be a good parent by default. You must learn it. Just the way you did not become doctor by default, you did not become lawyer by default, you did not become computer scientist and lecturer and journalist by default. You were deliberate about it. That was why you went to school. You were deliberate about it. That was why you went to school. You can't be husband and good wife by default. You went to school. Therefore, being a good wife, being a good husband, being a good parent cannot be by default. It must be by design. You know, every day, you're either living your life by default or by design, by default or by design, by default or by design. The conscious people in life live their life by design. The subconscious and unconscious people in life live their life by default. And sometimes their default is the way their parents live their life. It's what they saw their parent doing. It's what they saw their relative and their environment doing. They don't have their own. They didn't design the life they want to live. They just find themselves living exactly the way their husband, their father, or their mother, or their sibling, or their parent live their lives. You need the peace and tranquility at home to be able to think right and focus in order to solve bigger questions of life. So, as a husband and as a wife, you need to be a good actor. You know, if you're not a good actor, I'm telling you, if you're not a good actor, you can't be a good husband and wife. You can't be a good husband or a good wife. There's sometimes your husband will do something you don't like. And you know, if you have an outburst, you are going to make things worse. You have to pretend and look for convenient time to talk about it. You have to learn to pretend. You have to learn to pretend. If that thing is something you must talk about, you now look for a good time to talk about it. When everything is cool, you know, when everybody is happy, you just find a way to chip it in and be able to discuss it rather than talk about it at the heat of the moment. Look, you must be a good actor and good actresses. a good actor and good actresses. If you are decided, I say like it is. I don't hide my feeling. I say like it is. Oh, sorry. Keep saying like it is and keep destroying your relationship because you want justice rather than peace. So you must be a good actor. If you cannot act, please don't get married because you will always seek justice instead of compromising to allow peace to reign. If you cannot act, please don't get married because you will always seek justice instead of allowing peace to reign. Note that you should be responding to your partner's action, not reacting. In order to react, you move from emotion to action. But to respond, you move from emotion to reasoning, and from reasoning guided by truth, and from truth to action. Difference between reacting and responding. When you move from E to A, you are reacting. From emotion, you feel bad and you speak like that, emotion to action. That's childishness. From emotion, you move to reasoning. Reasoning, this emotion, what you want to do based on this emotion, is it right or wrong? For you to decide if it's right or wrong, you must guide your action by truth. You must guide your action by truth. If you're a Christian, there are a lot of principles or truth in scriptures to help you guide your action. For example, soft answer, turn away wrath. That's a principle right there. That's a principle right there. That's a principle right there. Soft answer, turn away wrath. Soft answer, turn away wrath. As much as it lies in you, live peaceably with all men. That's the principle right there. That's the principle right there. That's the principle right there. Let your word be filled with grace and seasoned with salt. That's the principle right there. That's the principle right there. Let your action be guided by truth, by principles. Then you move from emotion to reasoning, from reasoning to truth, from truth to action. That is responding. That's responding. If you move from emotion to action, that's reacting. That's reacting. Some people's lives were truncated. Some people's lives were truncated. Some people's lives were truncated because they got married to a foolish and selfish person who cannot control their temper. They move from emotion to action. They move from emotion to action. They can't control their temper. They can't control their temper. They always react to everything. They move from emotion to action. Imagine yourself trying to go into a house and you see people returning out of the house with fear on their faces. Don't you think you should pause and ask them, why are they running out of the house before you go in? You're trying to go into marriage. You see some people running out of marriage, divorcing, separating, fighting. Don't you think you should pause and ask yourself, today is Saturday now. Some people have gotten married today now. And they have started that journey now. And many of them are not ready. In fact, someone was writing a book and he did a research. First thing he said is, he asked hundreds of people this question. He said, do you think you were ready? You really understand what marriage is all about when you got married? He said 80% say they are not. 80% say they are not. Then he said, if you are to choose again, will you choose this lady or this guy? More than 80% said no. About 90% say they will not. And he now realized that most of the people that say they will not are less than 5 years in marriage. Most of the people that say they will choose the same person are more than 10 years in marriage. Most of the people that say they will not are less than 5 years. They're already having issues. Those that say they will are more than 10 years. Are more than 10 years. Are more than 10 years. Some of those that are married, that marry early, are running to come out of it. Some of those that are married, rather, are running to come out of it. Those that are single are eagerly Wanting to be married without asking questions from those running out of it. Please note that your life is not designed to find its highest completion or achievement through marriage. No, 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 no. And that is why the two people that taught the most important lesson in the Bible about marriage were not married. The two people that taught the most important lesson about marriage in the Bible, they were not married. Jesus Christ and Paul the Apostle. The two that taught the most important principle about marriage were not married. In your pursuit of who to marry, do not necessarily look for similarities, rather look for area of agreement that is guided by rules. This agreement is very necessary because two cannot work together except they agree. So you must agree with your spouse on how the house will be governed, including how conflict will be resolved. Agree how the house will be governed, how conflict will be resolved, because offense is sure. Offense is sure. How do we then get skill in the management of conflict? You must be skilled in management of conflict. You must be highly skilled in management of conflict. You must be very skilled in management of conflict. You must be skilled in managing conflict. So, for example, what does apology means in your marriage? Look at a rule that someone chose, which I like. It says, the first to complain is the recipient of the apology. That means if your wife is the first to complain, you cannot say, I did this because you did this. No. You have to apologize. You have to apologize. The first to complain is the one that deserves apology. So if someone offends the other person must complain. You must talk about it in a very friendly manner. That first person to complain is one that deserves apology. You can't say, oh, yes, now I did it now. I did it because you did that also. That's why I did it. No, no, no. You can't bring down your own issue because you didn't bring it up first. You have to apologize. The first to complain is not an apology. That means it is not about who is right or wrong. No, that determines who apologizes, but rather the first to complain. The moment one party complains first, the second party has lost the right to bring up his own complaint. The second person has lost the right to bring up his own complaint. The second person has lost the right to bring up his own complaint. I think it's a good principle to adopt. I think it's a good principle to adopt. Also note that to maintain peace in your relationship, apology should not need logic. That means you don't have to be wrong to apologize. You can be right and still apologize. Don't use logic in using the tool of apology. Do not use logic. Don't try to argue it. I am sorry, very powerful tool. The essence of this apology is not because you do something wrong, but rather that your partner is hot. That is the essence. The essence is because your partner is hot. And you need to remove that pain. She might be wrong in what she did and make you to do what you did. Now she's the first to complain. The hurting is what you want to take away. That's why you must apologize first. So it's not about right or wrong. It's about removing her pain or his pain. Don't just say, I am sorry. Try to explain how you are sorry, why you are sorry. Like, I am sorry that my action hurt you. But please note that it is not deliberate and I will ensure it does not happen again. Please note, even though it might still happen again, because you're human, you can make mistakes. But be sincere about the fact that you really want to ensure it doesn't happen again. But it might still happen. And you apologize again. It might still happen. It might still happen if you're not well disciplined. This apology in marriage is not about justice. No, 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 no. It's not about justice. It's not about who is right or wrong on the issue at hand, but rather it is about empathy and connection. It is about empathy and connection. Also know that it is important that the principle that guides you is that you want peace in that relationship. In that relationship. Now, Please note that the focus of dating should be considering the possibility of a courtship. So it is not a commitment. Some people recommend that you can actually date more than one person. Some people might be against that. But because in dating, you are trying to consider the possibility of courtship. That's why some people recommend you can date more than one person. Some people say, no, they can't double date. That's okay. But the idea is the idea of dating. And some churches don't want dating. You propose, you start courtship. Different recommendations. But what is important is that the period of dating is not a time for responsibility. So you can't be taking care of the lady's bill like you are the husband. And lady, don't be asking him for things like he's your husband. So whatever you do to help is out of kindness as a man and not a duty that you must be responsible for her because you are not married to her yet. A successful courtship, please note, a successful courtship is not the one that leads to marriage. A successful courtship is not the one that leads to marriage. A successful courtship is not the one that leads to marriage. The goal of a courtship is not marriage. The goal of a courtship is to test the possibility of getting married. Some people, when they're in courtship, they're already thinking about marriage. They're not even understanding that courtship is a way of testing the possibility that if marriage is necessary, if marriage will be possible, if marriage will be accomplished, it's a possibility of marriage, testing the possibility of marriage. Testing the possibility of marriage. Testing the possibility of marriage. And this is extremely important. That the essence of courtship is to test the possibility of a marriage. Is to test the possibility of a marriage. A successful courtship does not need to lead to marriage. So while you are courting, if you see the reason why you should not go ahead to commit to a marriage because the guy is a cheat, the guy is a liar, and you broke up in that courtship, that is a successful courtship. Because this courtship helps you accomplish your goal. What's your goal? To see if you should go ahead or not. And the courtship says you should not go ahead. It's a successful courtship. It may achieve your goal. It's a successful courtship. Look, I can tell you for a fact that many courtships are not successful. That's why you have a lot of marriages with pain, with a lot of endurance, with a lot of animosity, anger, with a lot of infighting, with a lot of separation and divorce. Separation and divorce is a sign of unsuccessful courtship. Separation and divorce is a sign of unsuccessful courtship. If it was successful, they would have known that they shouldn't have gone ahead in the first place. If it was successful, they would have known they should not go ahead. But because in courtship, they are already planning like they want to get married, rather than asking questions, discussing real issues, and agreeing on some things to see, are we having an agreement here? Or we have two different values so that we can know if we should stop it here or we should continue. As a matter of fact, if the courtship made you to see characteristics that made you not to go ahead to commit to marriage, that is a successful courtship, even though you did not marry. This is because courtship has achieved its goal of auditing the credibility of associating with that other individual. Look at that. The courtship has achieved its goal. What's the goal of courtship? Auditing, like an auditor, auditing the credibility of associating with the man or the woman. The goal of courtship is to audit. Is to audit the credibility of associating with this guy or this lady. That's the goal of courtship. The fact that a courtship led to a marriage does not mean the courtship was successful. If that is true, then we should not be seeing them slapping themselves after the marriage. They should not be slapping and fighting after the marriage. If the courtship was successful, a successful courtship should not create a marriage that is full of fight, that is full of rancor, because the goal of association is to create relief, is to create peace, is to create progress. It's not to create pain. A successful courtship that leads to a breakup should be done in peace and harmony, not in fight. So it's a courtship. and leads to a breakup, it should be done in peace and harmony, not to a fight. Remember that a season of bliss can accompany a wrong decision. A season of bliss can accompany a wrong decision. Ladies and gentlemen, we've learned today about conflict resolution in relationship, how to manage conflict, the need to agree, and we have also discussed the goal of dating. Let me hear from you. What have you learned today? Good evening, everyone. What have you learned today? Yes, Favor. Good evening. How are you? Can you hear me? Atasie Favor.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you, sir. How are you, sir?
Very fine. What have you
All
learned
right.
tonight?
Thank you so much, sir. I've learned a lot today, but I'll just summarize it.
Please do.
I learned that marriage is like you can't be a better partner, like either a better wife or a husband by default, by just being you. It's like a conscious effort. It's a deliberate thing, just like acquiring a tertiary education or a skill or something. So you have to take your time to like deliberately learn about it. And today what really stood out for me was the fact that I've always been picturing courtship as a, like, oh, when you're in courtship, the next thing is marriage. The thing is that if you're not compatible, based on your value systems and on very, very significant issues, you need to like just end it. And the fact that you ended the courtship does not mean that maybe something is wrong with you or anything. And again, what really stood out for me is like in marriage, it's just like a lot like acting. Sometimes you just need to even if you are right, you just need to like give in just for peace to reign, and that peace is actually superior to justice.
Yes.
I also learned that communication is very, very key, and I think this is a very, very important thing. Like for me, like communication, you need to be able to talk to your spouse when you don't like something, even before marriage. Like while you guys are dating or you're in courtship, you need to talk about things, not that you just expect that. And we have this mindset of nothing bad will happen, nothing bad will happen. But what is yes, we always pray, God forbid, we don't like to face the reality. We are all human beings. So we don't pray for something. Somebody said, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So
Yes.
just in case it happens, what should we do? So really, really stood out for me. I've really had this mindset shift this night. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Emmanuel Ate, good evening. How are you? What did you learn tonight?
Yeah, good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Good
it's
evening.
quite such a pleasure to be here once again in this seminar. I really learned a lot. Let me start from the last point that you made, that a successful courtship is better than failed marriages. That most of the marriages failed because the courtship was not successful.
Not successful.
So I learned that. I learned also that. I also gained that we need peace to reign. We should prefer peace to justice. It's not every time we must be right. The point that really struck me most in your lecture was when you said that the first person to complain deserved apology.
Yes.
I was like, what? What if the person is wrong? What if the same person that complains first is the person who is wrong? So, but for peace to reign, we still have to apologize and compromise. So that's what I've learned so far.
All right.
A lot of others. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. The favored one. The favored one. Good evening. How are you? Hello, the favored one. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, madam.
Good
How are you?
evening, sir.
Good evening.
Fine, thank you. Okay, so for me, I actually learned that human beings are not perfect, and so we're supposed to create room for the fact that we can actually make errors. I think just like you mentioned, most of the mistakes we make basically are based in courtship. We do not learn to, or we do not understand that courtship is not necessarily, I think maybe years back, like for me, I would say, I think when somebody just proposes to you and you say you're in courtship, everybody is just like, okay, so what dates are you picking? When is the date? And so nobody wants to say, oh, it didn't work out after courtship. It's almost looking like, you broke the marriage. So most people actually have that mentality. And I think that's where the big challenge is, because most of the red flags or issues around not being compatible, not being able to relate or communicate effectively show up in the courtship. And like when it gets into the marriage, is now times 100 or times 10, depending on what happens. So I actually learned tonight that courtship can be broken if they find out, if both parties realize that, oh, there's no headway here, or we're not really able to communicate. I also learned that the acting bit. So maybe I'm also of the school of thought, but that has changed as in my perception now on wanting it right. So that bit of, okay, not being able to think and say, okay, maybe this person is doing this for this reason, or this person was actually wrong. Why am I starting with the apology? But I think it's something that I've taken away today, even aside using it, say, in marriage, but even using it in maybe
At
with
work.
people.
At work.
Yeah. Yes. To be able to say, you can see clearly the person was wrong, but the person raises it up, because most times when somebody raises that the person is offended, he's actually pointing at something that you have done. So it's the person is hurt that you've done something, even if you've done that thing in his or her favor. At that point, he's not seeing it. So one of the things I took away too was that now I'll try to like maybe listen more and then say, okay, even when I am right, and the person brings it up, for instance, I could say, oh, I'm very sorry for this. Then later on explain, oh, look, this was in your favor. Oh, I sent this for this reason. And I'm sure that would actually get the person to the point where the person can now see what you were actually doing, appreciate it well, and maybe apologize instead, or even if he does or she doesn't apologize next time, even before questioning you or before saying I'm angry about something, they will think through it and say, okay, was this person doing it for this reason? I believe that some of these things, a whole lot of issues around marriages today boil down on who is right and who is wrong. And both parties saying, no, you were wrong here, you were right here, and then introducing the third party and all of this. You also mentioned something I picked today around how the church is run.
Yes.
Because truly, as you were mentioning, I could see it. I could actually, like when you mentioned something around purpose, fulfilling your purpose, I could picture a church that is preaching that. When you mentioned holiness, righteousness, I could just see. And since we are centered on one particular thing and the other parts are having issues, it becomes a very serious issue.
Yeah.
So if, for instance, somebody is in a church where they are really training children, they do all the things around the morals, the child may still grow up and not be able to socialize or not be able to succeed in a work environment or somewhere else where he or she finds himself, because in their church, they don't socialize. So there are a whole lot of it, but I thought that one of the things I took away too is, look, even for parenting, it has to be intentional.
Yeah.
You have to start to learn to actually pick up all those things in other areas, rather than just wait for a particular church or wait for a particular, if it's something that you need to, one needs to learn to improve herself or improve himself to be able to give better, to parent better, then the person should actually do it so that way he's able to get results. I really learned a whole lot. I'm still like processing everything in my head and trying to digest everything.
Thank
you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Chinedu, good evening. How are you? One striking thing you learned today. Chinedu, are you there? Good evening. Okay, Chinedu is busy. Opeyemi Temi Tokwe. Opeyemi, good evening. How are you? Hello, Opeyemi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yes. One important thing I've actually learned today, although I joined the lecture very late.
Okay.
Yes, is that one has to develop a conscious effort to making marriage work.
Yes.
You actually cited an example of how you go to school to read medicine, you go to school to be an accountant, and you just want marriage to work by default.
Yeah.
So things do not just work by default. You have to put conscious, intentional effort towards making it work. Okay. Another thing that actually really struck me is when you mention about choosing peace instead of justice. And something happened in my place of work recently, precisely, and it was a junior staff that something really bad, really, really bad. And I was really mad. And but I said, I do not want this person in my team. No matter, I do not want the person in my team. You understand? But after some seniors intervened, and after they talked to me, and I just felt, well, instead of standing on my feet to say, no, this person cannot work with me, why not just allow peace reign? You understand? Exactly. And where we are presently is a means to an end. It's not the end in its place, in itself. So we are all writing a story. We are all passing through,
we are all working in progress.
Exactly, we are working in progress. So we don't know if this person that has really wronged me today and I'm really mad at tomorrow, it could be in future, and fine, I could need the person's help, or the person might need my help. But if I've, chosen justice instead of peace, then, it might not happen again in future. Yeah. So I just want peace to reign. And sincerely, I've, the way I work better now, because I get to work and unnecessarily I'm just angry. You understand? Wow. Because of but because I have been able to choose peace,
about justice.
Exactly, above justice. It's been a lot better. I think better, I strategize better, and God has been helping. Good. So in marriage, we can also apply this. You understand? It will really go a long way. I actually wish I joined earlier.
Don't worry, it's recorded. It's recorded. I will drop the link to the WhatsApp group on the chat. It's recorded, so you can always have access to even the previous edition. This we're already in part 6, but we are doing protocol part 4, so you can always listen to the previous edition.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much for joining today. Sam, there is Sam, there is Samuel. I'm calling Sam now. Sam, good evening. Hello, Sam. Okay, Samuel. If Sam is not around, Samuel, are you there? Hello, Samuel. Can you hear me, please? Hello? Okay, Samuel is not. Toluwalope. Toluwalope, are you there? Good evening. Hello, Toluwalope. Can you hear me?
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. And you, sir?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. Thank you for joining me for the first time, and I'm glad I did.
That's good.
Yes.
I've dropped the link on the chat for Opeyemi and Toluwalope and those that want to join the WhatsApp group where we drop the link every week. So you can click on that to join the group. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Well, joining in some of the things I learned is the one that really struck me the most, that your courtship phase didn't go through marriage, shows that it was a successful courtship. And I was like, wow, that's mind blowing.
Yeah.
That's really mind, because in our community, or should I say in the society we live in, you are seeing like kind of like a failure when your courtship don't go into marriage. It's as if, you blew it, everybody knew, but be planning marriage and everything, and it just comes down like that. When your eyes get open to see that, oh, this person has this character, and I think I want to ask a question, or should I say something?
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
That gets people confused, when it comes to this issue of, oh, God spoke to me, this is the will of God, there was confirmation. But when you come together with a person and you find out that, hey, this person has some attitude, character that I don't think I can live with this, and person is not even willing to change, after much talk and everything, and you just said, look, this thing can't work, let's call it quit here at this point, and the whole world looks at you like, oh, you're a failure. But you're looking at it like, I can't live with this, even if it was God that spoke. So how do you now, I know you don't have to answer to the whole world, but for some people, because people, I think one of the shame, people like, oh, God spoke to me. If I now go and say, oh, it didn't work, or is it that God didn't speak again or something? How do you marry those two? Will of God, God spoke to me, and
I love your question. I love your question. Your question is a very important one. Look, you must be careful about God spoke to me. Even when I'm sure God is speaking to me, I won't tell you God is speaking to me. I will tell you this is what I feel. Paul said, we see in part and prophesy in part. Maybe there are people who are ASAS and they believe God spoke to them to marry. How can God say ASAS to marry and you are going to give out to a child that will be your pain for the rest of your life? Obviously, something is wrong. Over time, churches realize that, look, even when people say they saw the will of God and God spoke to them, churches will say, you can't go ahead, because the church are now aware that people do make mistakes. So even when you say you believe God spoke to you, does not mean you can't make mistakes, even when you say God spoke to you. That's why Paul said, we see in part, we prophesy in part. That means we can be prone to error, even when we think it is God. In fact, in my opinion, the fact that you have misunderstanding in that courtship, the fact that you have argument, the fact that you have issues that will not make you go ahead, is a sign to let you know that, maybe I didn't hear very well. It's a pointer that maybe you didn't hear very well. Why are you saying God spoke to me? Why are you not thinking of the fact that, what if you didn't hear very well? What if you make mistake when you think you hear? Why are you not thinking about that? Why are you thinking about the fact that, no, God has spoken to me, so I must go ahead? And some people have gone ahead like that, and they are regretting till today of taking that decision, because they deceived themselves believing God spoke to them. Even when all the signs are written on the wall that, look, you might have made mistake, you must give room for making mistake in hearing from God. Paul said we see in part and prophesy in part. That means even when we think we've heard, even when we think we've seen, sometimes it's not very clear. Sometimes, because of our nature as human, our own part is added to it. We interpret it in the way that probably is not supposed to be interpreted. If you give room for that error, then you find it easier to reverse when necessary. But when you claim God spoke to you and it's 100%, and you don't believe you can make mistake, then you go ahead, even when you see all the signs written on the wall, that this is not a way to go. I don't know if I answer your question.
You did, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Good. Thank you very much. Someone say watch out for the red sign or red line. Okay, Toria, good evening. How are you? Hello, Toria.
Good evening, sir.
How are you?
Very fine, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you again for another exciting session. Yeah, I learned a lot again, and one thing that was striking for me actually was, I know you mentioned earlier the peace being superior to justice in one of our last protocols, but as one of the principles of the protocols. Well, then while Mrs. Mkwe, I think she was saying something about how, what happened in her place of work.
Yes.
And you know how everything was just uncomfortable for her. And then I remember the piece you read about the price of the cost.
The cost. Hello, Victoria. I can't hear you again. Oh, Victoria is off. Oh, you need to come back for me to hear your question. You need to come back for me to hear your question. I've dropped the link on the chat for those of us. Okay, Toria is back. Toria, you can go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I'm having a network glitch. So I said while Christopher was talking about what happened, I remember the piece you read about the cost of a cup of hatred, how it cost a lot. I mean, can you hear me,
Okay,
sir?
yeah,
You
I
can hear
remember.
me.
Okay.
Okay, how it cost a lot, how
Wait.
the person being happy makes you sad.
Yes.
How you have to give up your own peace, your
Yes.
own joy,
Yes.
strength, and everything. And I'm considering that, okay, you can't just even afford to live with the same person under the same roof,
Yes.
and then you're losing a lot.
Yes.
I mean, truthfully, peace just have to be superior to
Yes. Okay, Victoria is off again. If you are not on the WhatsApp group, you can join the link. I've dropped the link on the WhatsApp group, so you can join the
Yes,
link.
sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, Victoria, go ahead, please.
All right, sir. So I say I have some scenarios where they say the husband and the wife are living together, and they don't talk to each other. The wife cooks separately from the husband. I feel like even like both hurting themselves much more than any other thing, like compared to the fight or whatever quarrel. So yes, I agree with the fact that peace is superior to justice. And then you also spoke about the if I can recall well, the aspect of I can't get it down. Okay, yeah, about a successful courtship and
Yes.
how a successful courtship does not have to lead to marriage.
Yes.
And they said something.
You are off again. You are off again. Your network is really terrible tonight. Okay, while we are okay, I think she's back. Yeah, Victoria, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Let me just wrap it up here because my network is giving me quite the issue. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I thought you were explaining something. Just finish.
Yeah, you
thought.
Yeah, you're talking about how a successful courtship does not necessarily have to lead to marriage, and the fact that it was not successful is actually the point that it was actually successful. I mean, the fact that the marriage was not successful. Yeah, exactly. And then, but then there was something you mentioned actually about your mentor and how the first person that complains have to be the one to the other partner have to like apologize and all. But my own question.
Okay, if you come back, you ask your question. Favor, after say favor, I saw your hand up. Was it error or you brought it down again? And I say
no, sir, it wasn't an error. I want to ask a question. Like,
go ahead.
What about like in a marriage, and it's only because you talked about the fact that peace is more superior to justice, and I agree with the fact, but what about in a situation whereby the wife is always the one, always, every time, like she's always the one owning to the mistake, owning up even when she's not wrong, like it's just one-sided? What can that kind of person do in that situation?
Number one, that means he has issue, the person he married in the first place. If the other person is not owning up at any point and the wife is the one owning up, but sincerely, if you want peace in that relationship, he has to own up that, like I said, the issue in question, if it's a very important issue that needs to be discussed, it can find a good time to discuss it later when everything is died down. But he has to own up and ensure peace reign. The Bible says, as long as a light in you, live peaceably with all men. If it lies within your power, go ahead and ensure there is peace. Is that okay?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Victoria, ask your question before I go to Victor. Victoria, ask your question. You're about asking a question.
Okay, sir. So my question is, in that scenario where one person complains, the other one have to apologize, won't it create a house or an environment of so much complaints? I mean, first to complain, that kind of thing. So everybody wants to complain like on
Yes,
time.
now,
Get
yes, now. The essence is it's good. It's good. Well, you don't want to complain before. You should talk about the issue now. If there are issues, you should discuss the issue. So if the person talk about it, that's okay. You know, communication is what is critical here. If one person is keeping quiet and the other person is not talking, that will not be okay. So it's good if I have concern, I should talk about the concern. I should just talk about it in a way that doesn't make the situation worse, which is why sometimes I might not say it at the moment and probably talk about it later, but I must talk about it. I can't keep quiet, because if you keep quiet and not talk about it, you might just have an outburst one day because you're full of a lot of issues. So you won't say one person is complaining, the other person, if you notice, look, this person is complaining, I'm apologizing. The day he has issues, we talk about it also now. But it's good there is communication if there are issues to discuss, and that can happen regularly, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can only get better in that relationship. Victor, welcome. It's like you came late today. How are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
What have you learned?
Yeah,
any question for me?
Yes, I just wanted to say, like, I joined you actually, so I could not pick up much. But you said we're going to discuss definition, because I was like,
no, it's part of what we're going to discuss, I think in 2 weeks or thereabout, but it's on my notes, don't worry. It's on my notes.
Okay.
We'll discuss it. We'll define who is a man, who is a woman, who is a husband, who is a wife. We're going to define it because you need to know your role.
Okay.
So, we'll do that. We'll do that. I've not forgotten.
All right, sir.
All right. Is there another person that has question, general question, apart from what we learned today? General question before we close? General questions?
Okay, so I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Around this, and I also have one general question around this is, one, he's just not accepting at any point in time. So he just like what the person had asked.
Favor, I really did not get your question.
In this case, a woman is now accepting.
I don't know if anybody got Favor's
She's going
question.
to live like that all her life. So even when she wants to speak to him about, yes.
Hello? Favor, I really did not get your
My
question.
question is if
Favor, I did not get your question, please. Hello? I don't know. Did anybody that have a good network got Favor's question? Maybe you can help me voice it. Did anybody get our question? I did not get it at all.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes, okay.
Sir.
It's clearer now. Just summarize.
Clara, okay.
What was the question?
My question is, if one of the spouse continues to apologize and the other one doesn't see any reason to, even when she's the first to complain, what will such a spouse do? Will the woman like endure all her life?
That's what I'm saying. No, there must be an agreement. You can't be, when I talk about forced to complain, there's an agreement between the two of you on forced to complain. That's an agreement you had. It's not just you deciding to do it. There's an agreement between both of you. In this relationship, to maintain peace, forced to complain have the right for apology. Both of you agree on that. So it's not one person doing it. This is not a decision of, that's why it's good we're having this conversation now. This is a decision that must be discussed even before the marriage. That look, in running this home, this is the way we want to do it. Whoever is the first to complain is the one that has the right of apology. So that at the end of the day, you don't say one person is right to complain, one person is complaining, one person is complaining. No, both of us both agree. What does it mean to be married, or what are the things single people should know about marriage? To be married is to carry responsibility. To be married is to say, I have peace. I want to share my peace. I have love. I want to share my love. I am not lonely. I am already whole. I want to share my wholeness. Don't marry because you are lonely, because you can be married and still be lonely. You must be whole on your own, even without nobody being with you. When you are married, if you have one problem, your problem will multiply by 10. A lot of other problems will show up. you must be ready to carry that responsibility. But we'll be discussing more about this in the coming days, Victor. We'll be discussing more about this. Yes,
so I have a second question. The other question is a general question. So what's the difference between your purpose, your calling, and your assignment? Are they different?
They are used interchangeably. Purpose, calling, assignment, they are used interchangeably. The idea is, what is my life supposed to be about? What should be my value to humanity? What should be my value to humanity, basically? What's my, and this is important even for you to get married. You must know yourself so that both of you know what your life will be about, so you can find a way of alignment and supporting each other. Some people never discover themselves and they go into marriage. We've discussed this in second session or third session. That if you don't discover yourself going to marriage, it might be a big challenge. But if both of you have discovered yourself, and then you now find a way to marry your both assignment or purpose in that relationship so that you can be of help to each other, because you're supposed to be of help to each other, actually. But if you have not discovered yourself, then it might be a very challenging journey, really. I don't know if I answer your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. See you next week. Have a wonder. If I must be whole, okay, to be married. Yes. Victor, are you asking a question? If I must move to marry, why should I marry? Good question. You shouldn't marry because you want to be whole. You should be whole before you get married, so that both of you can share your wholeness. Being whole, let me define what I mean by wholeness. Without people, anybody, without human being, you are okay. You are alone. You are okay by yourself. You are fine by yourself. You are happy by yourself. You are peaceful by yourself. You are joyful by yourself. You are loving and caring by yourself without anybody. That means when someone comes in, your peace should multiply, your joy should multiply, your happiness should multiply, everything about you should multiply. That's the whole essence. Two are better than one. So the reason why you should marry is because you multiply that thing you already are, not looking for it in the other party. I don't know if that helped Victor.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. See you next week and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.